Thank you. Good morning, Youth-Nex friends. It's great to be here. Batting cleanup, Alexi. You ready? Before we begin, I want to give a shout out to our team who came down. We came down, actually, they came down before me, had the chance to check out DC. I'm joined by Cassie, Allison, Denzel, Al Cormier, who generously gave me his toothpaste this morning. Thank you very much, Al. Jarrell, Jeffrey Foster, who not generously shared his bed last night at the Caviar Hotel as we packed everybody in. It's great to be part of the UTEC family here in Charlottesville. So thanks again for the offer to share a little bit of what we do. If you know, if you've heard of Lowell, we're over here. Some folks might know us as the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. Other folks might know of us as the home of the fighter. So Lowell is a proud immigrant community. And so UTEC was born there about 15 years ago. We'll talk just really briefly about UTEC. We have a short kind of video that it brings to life a little bit what we do. And our keynote speaker, by far the sharpest dressed man on the panel, Mr. Alexi, who can talk a little bit. I can say that because I'm the only guy. So one brief story as to, why we continue doing the work we do and what motivates us. So probably about a room this size, not exactly this size, and probably with about 2.5 times more people, and the average age was about 19 years old, convened. And it was actually a Buddhist temple. And this was 3 New Year's Eves ago. And it was in response to a New Year's Eve shooting. This actually was New Year's Day. It was a response to a New Year's Eve shooting where we had 9 young people shot at one party. And 1 young woman was killed. And at the temple, and some folks might know in Lowell, we have the second largest Khmer Cambodian community in the country. At the temple, all you could have is you had 3 times as many folks in this room kneeling down, and you would just hear every kind of little here in the back of the room, in the front room, the 2 words just whispered, senseless and tragic. And it was totally senseless. It made no sense that another young man would walk into a party and just randomly shoot other young people. But that's unfortunately what happens not only in Lowell but in other communities throughout our country. What the real senselessness, in addition to that, also was that about a week prior to that, a couple of young men came into UTEC and they were interested in hearing about our program, and they were interested in the job and so forth. And it was right before the break, and so we said, absolutely, we take everybody, it doesn't matter what your circumstances, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. And they were scheduled to come in on January 2nd. They unfortunately couldn't make it because one of them had to go to court for homicide and 8 accounts of attempted homicide. So that's the reason. We know that the work there is absolutely doable. It has to be done, and the fact that we can never, as we say, let it be seen as normal that this kind of violence happens in certain communities, right? That's our charge, is to never let that be seen as normal. So that's a little bit kind of like of the stories that motivate us every day to make sure we're doing the work we're doing, and I know like everybody in this community being able to do that type of work as well. We kind of, we're talking about this panel, we used the word recently, proven risk young people, not necessarily at risk or high risk, and there's a lot of debate I'd love to get into because we actually see young people as at potential as well, but we want to make sure that we're very clear that there is an opportunity to work with young people, and the reason we use that term instead of at risk is because a lot of times folks will see that group of young people that have criminal records, young people that are seriously getting involved, young people that are coming out of incarceration as the young people that the police can handle and the young people that are quote-unquote too far gone. We say absolutely not. Like obviously everyone in this room, we can see the resiliency that turns that young person into a true community leader and a true ally. And we know that when we read the newspaper and it says man shot in Lowell and it's on the 3rd page, when you really see the headlines and underneath that, you know that that's a 19-year-old young man. And we know that he has a mother that cried at his funeral, and we know that you should never be seen as that just something we walk past and we drive by. And so for us, we also know that there's a huge return of investment. If we can do work with this group of young people, the return on investment is fivefold. And so for us, you know, the outcomes are pretty clear. We all know that not only in Massachusetts, but, you know, nationally, 2/3 of the folks that leave incarceration go back into incarceration. That's the recidivism rate. In Massachusetts, it's about 67%. We're doing a much better job of avoiding young people going into the juvenile justice system, but those who do, over 2/3 actually go into, and quote unquote, graduate into adult jail. We're proud to say that our recidivism rate is about 14%. And so we know that the ROI, the return on investment, is immense if we can do this work very well. And so that's our quote unquote target population. So we could talk a lot about UTEC. I'll just focus on two quick things. I'll turn it over to our filmmaker who made a short video, and Alexi to kind of bring it to life. But two pieces that I would share in the work that we do, that we've learned to do even better, is the outreach stage and our transformation stage. So in the outreach stage for us, we have street workers. I started my career, I was very fortunate to start my career as a street worker. And we have a lot of street workers at UTEC in one form or the other. And the street workers' goal is to say, we're not going to wait for young people to walk into UTEC. As we know, that young person coming out from incarceration, that young person still entrenched in the gang life, is not going to walk into UTEC probably every single day and say, hey, I want to play ping pong. And hey, I want to join your mattress recycling program. Or Jeffrey Foster, you're the coolest dude in the world. Let's lower the voting age to 17 in Lowell, Massachusetts. Right? And so we hope that, and sometimes it happens, but it happens because, as we all know, of the relationships you build up. And so for us, we say at that outreach phase, it's about chipping away. Knowing that it is not a one-shot occasion. You have to be there, and you have to be able to know that you're going to do this work potentially for years. And we also know that because the young people that we're working with, it would be silly for us, and we talk about this with staff that come on board for the first time, it'd be silly for you to think that after a young person's been told by other adults in their lives that they're going to be there for them for 15 years, in a snapshot, you're somehow miraculously going to be the person that's going to turn it all around. So prepare to be tested and know that that's part of the work, and that's a gift that young person's given you. By frustrating you and testing you is a gift that they're giving you a chance. And so for us, chipping away is really about making the work very intentional. So when we talk about street work, a lot of times folks might think of street work, oh, it's just going out in the street and meeting young people and just, you know, chit-chatting. But it's actually quite intentional. So our street workers every day wake up and they check the arrest log. They'll go to the homes of every single young person that's arrested in our category. We have partnerships with the hotel. The moment there's a shooting, the hotel, we have partnerships with the hospital. I'm still thinking about the Cavalier. There's a lot of story I can't share this morning about that. So we have partnerships. I know, 10 minutes left, I know. So we have partnerships with the hospital. When there's a shooting, we go immediately to the hospital to be there at that one moment, that one window, that young person. We're behind the walls in the correctional facilities because we all know that first 72 hours when a young person's release is intense, but those prior 6 months prior to their being released is immensely even more important. So we're there. And unfortunately, the role of a street worker is also to be at the funeral home when there's a homicide because, again, it's that other unique window. And so that's the work we do out in the outreach side. When young people come into our building, as the title of this short film says, it's about having a clean slate. And so for us, recidivism is a primary outcome, but then it's all about education and employment. So getting to education and employment for us is intertwined, it's integrated with each other. It's about engaging in social enterprises. We do mattress recycling, we do furniture making, we do food services. We keep the mattress and the food totally separate. Just if you, in case you're wondering, I'm happy to talk more about that. But it's all hands-on work experience in our businesses, but it's saying that we will never, ever, ever kick a young person out. Because we know if we're going to work with this proven risk population, we are not a second chance program. We have to be potentially a 9-chance program. There has to be continual, multiple chances. We have to build in relapse. And so that's a little bit of what you will see about the model in which we do in that transformation stage. So I'll also say, as a kind of testament to the work that's happening here in this group here and coming down to DC, we are not okay with saying that our young people leave UTEC with a GED, because that's what they'll get when they're integrated in our education program, and a stable job, but you must also have a certificate of social justice and civic engagement. And that is interwoven into all we do, like the trips we take here to DC. So thank you all. I'm going to hand it over to Cameron Zahori, who is a filmmaker from Duke University, who came to UTEC, spent a year, and documented a quick snapshot of the work we do. This is a little bit of the glimpse you'll see in our workforce programs. So hopefully this is all set. Video now. Thank you.
When I turned 16, I had my first child. I didn't have no job, no money, no income. When I was young, I didn't know how expensive kids was. I turned into the streets, started hustling. I got arrested, was all into undercover. They let me off with probation.
I got a lot of jokes, but I'm going to hold back on them. How about, would it make sense to load it? I'll have Alexi come up and then load it. Okay. So, UTEC's keynote is young man Alexi, who's been a part of this program for a while. And Alexi, I'm going to have you come on up, who can share a little bit about what he was doing before, why the UTEC model is working, and his plans for the future. So.
Good morning. My name is Alexi. I've been a part of UTEC for about like 5 years now. Before I got into UTEC, I was in like high school, middle school. I actually had like a couple like difficulties in like middle school and high school. I was always like getting like jumped after school and stuff like that. I ended up like hanging with like the wrong like crowd, you know, just to feel safe, you know, because they were always there for me, you know, they always helped me out and stuff like that. But I ended up growing and learning that hanging with those type of people wasn't going to lead me down the right path, and that I had to change that. So I ended up being like a high school dropout, and the same day I dropped out of high school, a friend of mine told me about UTEC. So that same day I went down, I started talking to like a lot of TCs and the street workers, trying to get myself involved. It kind of took like a while for me to get into UTEC because it had like a lot of like youth that were like applying for it. So like me, I just stayed going there every day to the drop-in center. I was playing ping pong, pool, basketball. I joined the basketball team of UTEC. I just started going there. I stayed consistent, going there, showing them that I wanted to be there, and I really wanted to change my life around, and I needed a second chance at life. So talking to Greg and my TC, Thompson, and some of the street workers, they encouraged me and they kept me focused and like positive to like wanting to like change myself around. Like before, I always used to swear when I talked. Like it didn't matter where I was. It didn't matter like where I was, I would always swear. But like coming to UTEC, they teach you how to do like a lot of different things, like how to be professional. They have site visits and events that they have you go to talk to like important people, like the mayor, like candidates, you know, like, so it's like really good for us to like get this experience and stuff. But I'm into like the furniture design, like I design like all like types of different tables, chairs, birdhouses, like everything like that. It's pretty difficult sometimes, but it's like easy to learn, like if you're like a fast learner and you can see everything right and know how to do measurements and you're good at math. But what I really want to get out of UTEC is to pass my last test. So as soon as I get that done, I want to like just keep on like working, get a second job, and eventually end up going to college, probably major to be a lawyer or to be a medical assistant, because that's what I really want to do. I want to have a good career for myself, and I want to just be able to do the things I couldn't do for my mom when I was younger. Thank you guys for having me, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.